Welcome to NSFW 14 on WallStreetOasis.com. He's Eddie B. I'm Midas, and today we are covering the oncoming Atlas Shrugged movie, Banker Bonus Hedging, and whether a university education is right for you. So jumping right into it. It's over half a century in the making, and Atlas Shrugged, the movie, is almost here. Now, as my name would indicate, I'm a big fan of the book. Cheers, brother. Not at all because of Rand's
Cheers, guys.
But simply due to the visionary scope of her dystopian future. I really do marvel in the fact that she was able to see not the future itself, but the attitudes and values which would become prevalent decades after her own time. I'm going to leave the movie discussion to Eddie. I'm going to say that one huge mistake we make as Americans is that we ignore history and think that because it has not happened in the U.S., it can't happen in the U.S. We experience the physical and fiscal realities of a centrally controlled society and also the long-term psychological effects. I can rant on this subject for a day, so I'll end it in brief with a quick explanation of my username, which is something that a lot of you guys have asked me about. So here's the breakdown. For those who haven't read the book, Midas Mulligan is the world's greatest banker. Every transaction he completes, every deal he gets involved with turns to gold and he makes a ton of money. I also look kind of like the way he's described in the book, and though I love Jeff Pearson and I think he'll do a great job, we don't look anything alike, so that's a minus for the producers and the directors. The Magoo part relates to the beloved cartoon character Mr. Magoo, who's happy-go-lucky, legally blind, and is always stumbling into trouble, but somehow winds up the winner. That's kind of how I look at my own success, and really the success of most finance professionals at large. You can be Midas Mulligan, but more often it's the Magoo part that's going to land you in riches. So hard work does matter, but being a lucky blind son of a bitch is highly underrated. So the name's intended to remind both me and you that luck's always a factor and that you should always be grateful to the circumstances you're in, as well as to your own gumption. Eddie?
Yeah, man, I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
Agree with you there.
I'm also a fan of the book, and have been for a long time, and I'm sure I'll see the movie. The trailer looks really interesting. I'm hoping they don't make the movie a 3-part, 6-hour monstrosity, because I just don't think that the movie-going public will bear it. But I gotta say that my personal feelings on objectivism have changed quite a bit over the years. Rand herself wasn't exactly a strict adherent to her own philosophy. And you have to question the values of any guru who surrounds herself with intellectually dishonest toadies like Alan Greenspan. When I was young, I was a true rip-and-tear, greed is good kind of guy. As I've gotten older, that aspect of my personality has softened a bit. Do I think the poor cause a lot of their own problems? Yes, I do. Do I think the wealthy have no responsibility to the poor? No, I don't. One area of Atlas Shrugged that I'm still in lockstep with is Rand's assault on government corruption. I think history has shown that government always manages to achieve the exact opposite of their stated aim. And for that reason, I think Rand was right on the money, and whether you agree with her philosophy or not, it's an interesting book. It's one of the most influential books ever written in English, so if you haven't read it, do yourself a favor and read it. What do you got? Bonus hedging.
I agree. Yeah, this is a topic that got very little press during the financial crisis itself, but many insiders referenced it as something that would be a factor down the line, and I completely agree now. As you mentioned, we're all a little bit of capitalist, money-hungry whores here, and we don't really have much shame to that fact. But like I mentioned in my post about the SEC earlier this week, I think the need for instant gratification in finance is really underestimating the potential of the fallout that can come down the road as a result of these actions. Though bonus hedging is not illegal, it is an end run around the laws that are out there, and just yet another method really of protecting the interest of the guys at the top. And I think the industry really has to realize that it can't keep on visibly and with such arrogance continue to tell Main Street, we're smarter than you and we're going to figure out anything that gets thrown at us. The reality is that people are struggling and this mess isn't going to get cleaned up overnight. So there needs to be a more active plan on the part of Wall Street, in my opinion, to win back the trust of the public so the small investors will feel confident in markets again. All of you guys who think there can be a recovery without the full-scale return of small-time mom-and-pop investors to Wall Street are completely kidding yourselves. This is the age-old question of, whether you want to be eating filet mignon for the rest of your life and wait a few years to get there, or are you satisfied with a greasy McDonald's cheeseburger 3 times a day starting today? I think that's kind of the approach the industry is taking, and I don't think that long-term bonus hedging is worth the price. How about you, Ed?
Well, it's interesting. I think that's kind of a pervasive myth on Wall Street right now, is that, we have our supercomputers and we have our massive capital markets, and, we don't need individual investors anymore. That's dead wrong, but I think that's a popular conception right now among bankers. Don't know where it comes from, really. It's the attitude that it's different this time or what have you, which is almost always, is always wrong, frankly.
Yeah.
But I'm in favor of just about any kind of wealth preservation strategy, and bonus hedging is no different in my mind. However, at some levels, it becomes borderline insider trading, and that's why most public companies have anti-hedging and anti-shorting policies in place for their C-level executives. Let's face it, if you're the CFO of XYZ and you know this quarter's numbers are shit, so you go and buy a bunch of puts, that's not kosher.
Exactly.
So in a nutshell, I don't really have a problem with lower-level guys hedging the non-cash portion of their bonuses, but when you start talking about partner level at Goldman, the line gets blurry pretty quick. And besides, I honestly think that Wall Street is almost out of the woods from a compensation reform standpoint. So using strategies like bonus hedging on the part of top guys is just calling attention to something best left alone. Seriously, the spotlight is almost off compensation, so the top guys need to take one for the team here and maybe leave a few bucks on the table for the good of everyone on the street. That's just how I look at it.
I don't know if that's happening, man. But let's move on to a topic that's a little nearer and dearer to all of our hearts and pockets. And I honestly think maybe we should consider changing the name of the show to Sacred Calculus, since we seem to be attacking a different idol and hero every week. But today it's the hallowed halls of higher academia. In my opinion, college is only worth it in 3 specific instances. 1, you're a rich kid, money's not an issue, and you want to go fuck around for 4 years, more power to you. 2, you are either a very poor kid who's getting all kinds of financial aid, a super high achiever on a scholarship, a beneficiary of some ridiculous positive discrimination program that unfortunately is so prevalent today, or you fall into some other category that's going to grant you completely free schooling. And number 3, the first 2 really only matter if we're talking about a very high reputation school. Now, all you non-target front office guys, please dry out the manginas and hear me out here. Nobody's saying you can't make it with a diploma from State School University. All I'm saying is that in a world where information is now so abundantly available, you really can get a Goodwill Hunting style of education and prosper on your own. And this is something that's only going to continue to expand, and actually relates kind of well to some of the subtext in Atlas Shrugged. With the advent of online education and for-profit schooling, diploma dilution is a very harsh reality of life. The reality is college is not the place you should be going to discover yourself and figure out what you want to do in life. It's become way too expensive, and the jobs which a diploma once guaranteed are just dwindling fast, and they're not coming back across a whole wide range of industries. So as the world develops technologically, your BA is going to be treated a lot more like BS. And on a large scale, college is becoming a very, very bad investment, in my opinion, and buyers need to beware. What do you think, Ed?
Well, it's something I've dealt with my whole life. In a lot of ways, I regret not going to college. But I was self-aware enough at 17 to know that I was just going to fuck it up anyway, and it didn't seem fair to put my parents through that. By the time I did a 5-year stretch in the Corps, I had a wife and a mortgage and car payments, and there was just no way I could go to school at that point. I was lucky that there were still front office opportunities for guys with no degree back then. I will say that from a value standpoint, the majority of college students and graduates today get totally screwed. Wall Street aside, most people end up working in fields completely unrelated to their major in college, and the amount of debt a kid comes out of college with is really staggering these days. I think a lot of people would be much better off learning a trade, It might be verboten to the readers of WSO, but the fact is a decent plumber or electrician or roofer makes a shitload of money and works less than half the hours we do. I'm a boat captain, or at least I was in a past life, and you can't believe what some skippers make. Even on the small boat side, it starts at $500 a day plus expenses. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you know exactly what you want to do and you can somehow afford to go, college can be a great thing that gives you a real leg up in life. But for the majority of people, though, it's just a 4-year social experiment that costs $100,000. You know, that's kind of how I look at it. Everything I've wanted to know that would have been college-level stuff, I've hired guys who were recognized as the best in the business to teach me. So I know that's kind of an unconventional approach, but that's how I've done it.
And you probably paid a lot less than $100,000 for it.
Certainly, yeah. As far as books go today, I don't have a specific book recommendation per se, but I will tell you what I'm reading right now. It is the Financial Crisis Inquiry Report. Somebody has to read this shit, right? It's actually pretty interesting, and it might not be a bad idea for you to pick up a copy for posterity's sake. 20 years from now, you might flip through and say, yeah, I remember what it was like back then. Anyway, what do you got, Midas?
I'm just going to continue on the Atlas rant and just bring up the point that the vast majority of the people who commented have never actually read the book. It's 1,142 pages cover to cover. At a 40-page-a-day clip, it'll still take you a month to get through it. I mean, Rand devotes a good third of the book to highly descriptive narrative, which can easily be passed up. That having been said, if you work in any financial sphere today and you haven't read this book cover to cover, you're really missing a lot, not just in terms of some kind of ideological point of view, but just in terms of understanding where the world has gone and where it may possibly go over the past and the next 50 years in terms of American economics. I'd suggest focusing more on the spirit of the book than the logic and the philosophical ideas. A lot of people try to sanctify it. It's essentially a human story and one that's really nicely woven in to the fabric and the ideas that come behind markets. So, you know, it's basically about people that do and people that don't, and you guys know yourselves which one you are, so you don't need me to tell you. So, I think that's pretty much it for us for this week. For your Uncle Eddie, I'm Midas. Don't break the bank on Valentine's Day this week, guys. Keep your money in your pocket. Plenty of fish in the sea. Plenty of rum bottles in the drawer. And
yes, indeed.
Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.